Out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. That's what TV manufacturers and really just about every single consumer electronics brand is facing right now. The only way to avoid jacking up prices on the tech we love was for electronics companies to shift production to countries not being targeted for tariffs. But the latest news from the presidential administration shows that there's basically nowhere to hide, at least for now. So, are we about to pay some seriously outrageous prices on laptops, phones, and TVs? It sure looks that way. Is there any hope of escaping this? Yes, but should we bet on that? And is there anything that you can do right now to save money? Let's talk about that. Hey everyone, I'm Caleb Dennison, and if you don't know me, I've been a tech journalist for almost 15 years and a professional TV reviewer for over 12 years. I've been following this tariff topic since the tariff scare that occurred during President Trump's first term in office, and more recently I did this video about what tariffs are and how they might affect the cost of the stuff that we see on store shelves, specifically with consumer electronics like TVs, laptops, and phones, but really this touches nearly every gadget now. Well, what's happened in the past few days has considerably shifted the story since I published that video and article a little over 2 months ago. So in this video, I'm gonna briefly recover what a tariff actually is and why you will always be the one who pays for it, unfortunately, why the threat of skyrocketing prices on electronics and plenty of other consumer goods looks more serious than ever before, whether there's any chance we'll dodge this bullet again, because yeah, we've kind of been here before, and whether there's a cheat code to get what you want or need without paying an arm and a leg. So when I sat down to make this video, I was thinking I might just point y'all back to my previous video if you needed to get up to speed on the basics of tariffs. But rather than do that, let me just give you the super short version right now. A tariff is essentially a tax on anything made in another country and then imported into the country that you live in. Obviously, I'm speaking mostly to folks living in the United States right now. The idea behind it is simple. If the US government slaps a tariff on a product coming into the country, it forces the company importing that product to pay a fee. That detail is essential. A tariff forces the company importing a product, not the company making it, to pay an added fee. It's true that sometimes the importer is just the US arm of a foreign company, but the money gets paid by someone or some group here in the US. Now, when the tariff talks started heating up, I noticed a lot of folks were confused about how tariffs work. But I think a lot of you now understand that US companies importing products are the ones who pay the tariff, and that they're not just gonna eat that cost. They're gonna pass it on to retailers, who will then pass it on to you, the consumer. The bottom line is, you pay the tariff, pure and simple. A TV brand pays the tariff to get the TV into the US. They add that to the cost for a retailer like Best Buy or Amazon, who purchases a lot of TVs, and then Best Buy jacks up the price on the TV to compensate. You pay more, whether it's when you click the Buy Now button or you get to the cash register. Now, in the past, the current US president has used tariffs as a negotiation tactic with varied success. Some tariffs that were threatened never came to be because new trade deals were ironed out and everything ended up being mostly fine. The tariff was basically a bargaining chip. That these tariffs could be used primarily as a bargaining chip, that hasn't changed. It's still possible that that is the motivation that's driving these new tariffs. The problem is, if other countries can see your tell and know you're bluffing, or if they've played a game of chicken enough times to gain some confidence and start pushing back, that bargaining chip is far less powerful. Perhaps that is why the tariffs announced on April 2nd are so shocking. To me, it looks like a shock and awe campaign. Not only are tariffs promised to be imposed, they are massively high. And not only are they higher, but they're being levied against countries that had not previously been targets for tariffs. By and large, analysts did not anticipate countries like Vietnam were going to be targeted, much less targeted with heavy artillery. But this super aggressive new approach does two things in particular that I want to highlight. One, it raises the stakes and sends a message that maybe this isn't a bluff after all. And two, it slams shut the door on potential workarounds. Let's take a TV brand like TCL, for example. TCL is based in China and does manufacture not just complete TVs in China, but also a bunch of the individual parts that go into TVs. And TCL makes those TV parts not just for themselves, but also for other brands to use in their TVs. Keep that in mind because the whole supply chain thing is going to come up again shortly. Well, TCL might have been hoping to dodge some of these tariffs by manufacturing a bunch of its TVs that were headed for North America and the US specifically in Vietnam, a country which was not originally part of the announced target for tariffs. Most of us were eyeballing China and Mexico and Canada. But now we know that not only is there a 10% blanket tariff placed on all goods not made in the USA, there's heavy tariffs slated for a whole host of countries, including Vietnam and Taiwan. The tariff planned to go into effect on April 9th places a 46% tariff on Vietnam. That means most of the TVs TCL planned to bring to the US from Vietnam will see pretty radical price increases. Let me spell that out for you. Let's say the cost on a TV before Amazon or Best Buy mark it up is $500. And let's say that once it is marked up for retail, it would normally be a $1,000 TV. Well, with a 46% tariff on that TV, the cost goes up from $500 to $730. So to make the same margin on that TV, which used to cost $1,000 to us, Best Buy or Amazon or whoever will have to price the TV at $1,230 at least. That's a $230 increase. But there's more. If there's a concern that fewer TVs might get sold due to these higher prices, and that's usually how it works, maybe that TV price gets jacked up even more to try to make up for lost revenue due to slowed sales. Like, crap, we're gonna sell fewer TVs? Well, let's bump that price just a bit more so we don't take as much of a hit. Now, fortunately, TCL specifically happens to have manufacturing plants in something like 32 countries, many of which are not subject to anything higher than the basic 10% tariff. So we could hope that TCL would pivot manufacturing to try to avoid steep tariffs and keep their TV prices low. The problem is, a pivot like that doesn't happen overnight or even in a matter of months. It would take many months to a year for that kind of pivot to happen. And that's for TCL, a company that is rich in manufacturing locations. Other brands don't have quite that level of availability, if any at all. Even still, let's say TCL or any other brand manages to successfully move manufacturing to a country less impacted by these tariffs. There's no guarantee that the president won't track the move and institute a tariff on that very country. It's a game of whack-a-mole that I don't think manufacturers can win. And that's what I mean by the door slamming shut on workarounds. There are still workarounds, but they will take so long to implement that price hikes are inevitable. Again, that's if the tariffs actually go into effect. And the inevitability of those price hikes, to me, it makes sense because I believe price hikes are the point. The idea is to discourage folks from choosing products made in China, South Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, or Mexico just because they are cheaper. If the prices for a product made here in the US are roughly the same as one made in an overseas country, well, then you might as well buy the US made product, right? Plus, this supposedly evens out a trade imbalance. The problem is, while that math might work for a product that is made both in the US and imported from foreign countries, like cars and trucks made both in the US and in Mexico, it doesn't work for products like TVs because no TVs are made in the US and they aren't gonna be anytime soon, if at all. No, folks, they really aren't gonna be made in the US. Building those factories and staffing them would make those TVs even more expensive than overseas built TVs that come with these fat tariffs on them. It seems to me that the only way we avoid price hikes is if these tariffs as a negotiation tactic actually work and the US presidential administration pulls them back or rescinds them. But I'm worried that that's not actually going to happen this time because the rest of the world has played this poker game before. Look at Canada's response. They didn't take it laying down. They turned right around and clapped back. And I have to believe that other countries are probably going to do the same. In fact, right before I sat down to make this video, it looks like China is retaliating right now. So rather than fold, I think other countries are more likely now to call the bet. From there, we'd have to hope the administration in the US would back off in the face of resistance. But I don't know about you, that just doesn't seem likely. I see the president digging his heels in at least for a while. I don't know, I'm just going with my gut here and I'm looking at the reaction of the stock market and I've got to think prices are gonna go up for at least a little while. You know, I did have hope that a strong supply of goods already warehoused here in the US, 2025 TVs already in warehouses or on trucks bound to retailers. I had hoped that that might delay these price hikes. But as we've seen from some car companies and car dealerships, some folks are preemptively raising prices in anticipation of the tariffs, even though the tariffs don't apply to the products that are being sold right now. I kind of get it. I mean, if you think you're gonna sell fewer cars or TVs or laptops because of skyrocketing prices, then you hike them a little bit now and make a bit more money while folks rush to buy before the prices really take off. I wouldn't like it, but I understand if LG, Samsung, Sony, TCL, Hisense, Roku, and Amazon, and everybody else jacked up the prices of the TVs that they've already got to try to hedge against what is almost certainly going to be a massive hit to retail sales. I mean, there's this whole lecture about futures that I just don't have time to get into. Just understand that it's not uncommon for prices on stuff to go up now in anticipation of what's coming later. And I haven't even gotten into supply chain stuff. The fact that a part of a TV or a part of a laptop is made overseas means that a tariff is going to get slapped on that. Guys, prices are going up if these tariffs go into effect, and it looks like they are. I'm not the only one who thinks so. I've talked to my contacts at several TV brands about this as recently as a week ago, and they all said more or less the same thing. They have been anticipating this challenge and building several pivot plans, but pivoting takes time. And in the end, they'll have to do what they'll have to do. There's only so much in their control. And here's another thing. I've spent all this time talking about rising prices on the stuff you can buy, but there's also a good chance that there could be fewer products shipped here in the first place, fewer options. If TV brands, for example, want to offer TVs at certain price points, let's say under 500 and under 1,000, etc., fewer of their offerings are likely to fit that category. So we may see fewer options on store shelves if every brand tightens up their product lineup in response. So that's a lot of doom and gloom, but can you avoid price hikes by buying right now? Well, you can avoid the worst price hikes if you buy soon. But the only way you'll avoid price hikes entirely is if you buy right this second. I mean, whatever happens tomorrow is anyone's guess. We're on borrowed time. I am the last person to encourage emergency buying or impulse buying, but I'm looking at what's in front of us and I'm thinking this is maybe the smarter, safer move. So I think my absolute best TV buying advice right now is the same advice that I've given for years. Buy a prior year model TV. Buy a 2024 TV and buy it right this moment. 2024 TVs are already discounted. They don't get touched by tariffs. They might get a little bit of a bump because everything's going to go up, but they are by far going to be the least expensive option. And the good news is they're fantastic TVs. I like the TCL QM8 and the TCL QM7. I like the Hisense U7K and U8K. I think you get the most TV bang for your buck with those models. I love the Samsung S90D and the QN90D. And if you can still find one, the 2023 Samsung S90C, awesome TV. I love the LG C4 OLED and the Sony Bravia 8 OLED. And if you want a super premium TV that you don't spend an arm and a leg on, I'd scoop up an LG G4 or Sony Bravia 9 like now. maybe yesterday. Now, those are just my favorites. Any well-rated 2024 TV is likely to cost a whole lot less than anything that was made for 2025. And there seem to be plenty still available as I publish this video. If you want the quickest path to buying one of the TVs that I've just suggested, I've got shopping links down below. And yes, we'll make a small commission on those, so thanks for supporting the channel. That's what I've got for you. I wish I had more of a silver lining to share. Those of you who know me know I'll go out of my way to see the positive in things, but in this case, I don't know. It just doesn't look great. So let's grab on and hold on tight because it's likely to be a bumpy ride. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I know this wasn't the most fun video, but hopefully it was helpful to you. Let me know down in the comments, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. And until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like. Okay, there's gotta be something in there. I don't know why I was holding my breath the whole time.